Welcome to the Mediocre to Magnificent podcast. I'm your co-host, Braxton Matson, and your host, Lee A. Williams, and I just want to say thank you for tuning in because you are what makes this pure magnificence. You are the ripple effect of magnificence, and we are going to bring you a message that will give you insight, inspire you, motivate you, and challenge you to not only grow in your magnificence, but let you know that you are magnificent in everything you do. So stay tuned, you don't want to miss it. Lee,
Yes, sir.
we're back again, man.
We are back.
We are
again.
back, buddy.
We're here.
Oh, man. So,
You're hype, man.
I am, man. But, I mean, so we had an episode before
Yeah.
where we were talking about perfect love, right?
Yeah.
And, like, recently I had, like, we're going through 1 Corinthians, me and Candace. We're, like, reading through it. And some things have come over the last few weeks where it's like, you know how, like, you can kind of recognize you get in your flesh a little bit. And it's like, you got to, like, that's not me.
Wow.
That doesn't serve me.
That's happened to you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You said, oh yeah.
Yeah, it does. But what it got me thinking was, is like, what is the essence of love?
What is the essence?
Like, and just to get an idea what the definition would be for essence,
Okay.
or how because I was like, okay, well, I'm trying to come up with a title.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I think this works. And it's the intrinsic nature or indispensable quality of something, especially something abstract that determines its character. So you have brought it up, perfect love.
Right.
And it, like, plain Jane, like, keep the commandments. Like, I mean it's very
Did you play
the way you put it,
Okay.
it's like a lot of it, like, keep the commandments. Like, it's key.
It's
Very key.
It's in your face.
And so I was looking into it more, and, like, the essence of love, like, how, as we as individuals, how are we supposed to do, like, what does it look like for us as our day-to-day walk? And there's, like, two key things to look at, and one is about love is an action. It's just not like, oh yeah, just
right.
I'm full of love. No, it's like it's the action part of it. You know, how a person lives for the Lord.
Right.
You know, obeys him. How we live out for others and serve others is kind of how the action side of it. And in 1 Corinthians, especially in 13, it really gives you a true definition of this. And I guess, I mean, I could read the full thing. I think you would do it better.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, I want you to read it because I think you would do it real good.
Read 30.
Yeah, the whole thing. Great. The whole thing, yeah.
If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecy, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways.
Mm.
For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide. These three, but the greatest of these is love.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot, man.
It's a lot to take in.
It's a lot. Love never ends. Is sticks out.
Yeah. Love never ends is I think one of the things we talked about. Like it's never ending. Because you look at that reading and it's like even the gifts God has given you
Right.
doesn't outlast love.
Does not last.
And then you talk about, as a child and the fleshly ways.
That's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
The fleshly stuff coming up was like, well,
But that brings it to another point is like, okay, love is action. It's how we do things in our lives. But it also is about being love.
yeah,
Because there's a foundation to that because God is love.
yeah.
So it's like you got to dig deeper to it. And then Christ is the one who showed it out. He lived it out. Like we see physically him living this out.
Right.
And it's not just about, again, it's not just about how we behave. It's not about just our actions. And one of the scriptures that was brought up that really hits home about that is Ephesians, in Ephesians 3:14 through 19.
Okay.
Where he talks about, for this reason I bow my knees before the Father, for whom every family in heaven and on earth is named, that according to the riches of his glory, he may grant you to be strengthened with the power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength to comprehend with all the saints what the breadth and the length and the height and the depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. So that's the being part. Like it's such a deeper level of just, it's not just doing these actions.
Right.
Because it's all part of your heart. Like God knows your heart.
He does.
He's written the commandments on our hearts.
He is writing them on our hearts if we allow.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So let's say this. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God, and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love.
Mm-hmm.
That's the scripture.
God is love.
1 John 4:7-8.
That's key,
So
man.
it's just, that's the essence right there. God is love.
It really is. I mean, just being grounded and rooted in that. Because I feel like a lot of times we'll sit there and whether it be church or just reading scripture, and it's kind of just more of this surface level part to it. And it's like once you get to the point of like understanding like how deep his love goes for us, I think that's where we can kind of get more involved in understanding the essence of what love is and how we need to act it out in our lives.
Yeah, and that's why we read the whole thing in 1 Corinthians, because people know, like, love is patient, love is kind, love it. Like,
oh yeah, that's the key. Like if you were to look up, like if you were to type that in a keyword, that particular section would come up.
Yeah, it comes up.
But if you read the whole thing, you understand the importance of it.
And that's why we read the whole thing, because it's like, man, what do you pick? And then before that section and after that section, it really gives clarity on like the essence of what you're speaking about. of the action and God and like not going into the flesh and still being
Yeah.
the essence of love
Right.
in your everyday. And are you bearing fruit that shows that?
Right. Really.
So,
Yeah. And then there was another layer to it. It's like thinking about it, it's like, well, love is countercultural too. I mean, we see that every day.
counter culture.
You know, it speaks out against the envy, the pride, the self-centeredness of things. And when you read First Corinthians, you see what they're going through.
Yeah.
Especially in the first part where Paul's just like he's giving you a layout of what's going on.
Right.
And how he needs to rectify some things or kind of help them get through things.
Right.
But it's such a mirror image of what we see today too.
Right.
Because
nothing's
changed.
That's wonderful because we said love is counterculture, but then we said God is love.
Yeah.
So God is in essence counterculture.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it.
Sometimes we don't have to be. Like, don't overthink this.
Yeah, you don't overthink it. Don't overthink this stuff.
Right.
It can't. Yeah. And that's
so funny because me and Jamie just recently talked about that.
Yeah.
But just to anchor for him right now, God is counterculture.
But it's also love it's just not just countercultural. Right. Love isn't soft either.
See? Now let's talk about it, huh?
So like when you one thing that came to mind when I was reading it is 2 Timothy 4:3-4. And it's talking about the dangers of letting the world's understanding of matters influence the church. That's basically what it was. And what he said was, for the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. So there's a fine line, and that's where like love, it can't be a soft thing sometimes.
They will seek teachers.
Yeah.
To continue to tickle.
I mean, that's Paul's writing.
Ears.
That is Paul's writing. And how is that any different to today?
It's not different at all. People, because it's like, if you look like the world, I mean, but you might be like, okay, but if you're going, and the whole service, is like a concert,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know, because you never know.
Well, I feel like because there's been instances in our walk where it's like there's more, like we feel it in our heart. There's more to this than this.
Right.
There is way more that we need to understand, or at least attempt to just know.
Right.
That this is not doing. Like it's almost like, it's like when you go to the gym. When you go to the gym and it's like, man, I plateaued.
Yeah.
Like there's always more to scripture. There's always more to it. There's always more learning. There's always more revealing. It's a lifetime commitment.
Especially when you start like really accepting like the scripture Jeremiah talks about.
Yeah.
Our forefathers have been lied to.
I mean,
and once you read that, you're like,
yeah,
there's more. And it's like you have to be able to get through that. And if you're not willing to get to the true essence of God's love and what that means and get it written on your heart.
Man, it's like the cockroach episode, man, with the moths. Man, you got to be the moth. You got to go to that. You got to be consuming fire thing. But and another part is in 1 Corinthians. This is what I love how Paul puts things, because it's to me it's kind of comical.
Yeah.
When you read some of it. But like there was a point in 1 Corinthians 4, I think it was 4:21. Yeah. He was being told what was going on.
Yeah.
And all this stuff that was happening.
Right.
And he's like, this is not what Yeah, and so he's asking them at the tail end of 4, like, how is he supposed to come?
Yeah.
And he says, shall I come unto you with a rod or in love? And in the spirit of meekness.
Mm.
So it's like Paul understands there's a time for leading.
Yeah.
And where love isn't soft.
Right.
And there's a time for just being there for somebody and just walking them through things.
Mm.
And that's key, man. That's key. But there's other things like when the Hebrews 12:6, for the Lord disciplines the ones he loves and chastises every son whom he receives.
Mm.
And then you deal with, like the love and the law. So there's a vertical and a horizontal way we are supposed to live.
Right.
And the depiction of that is the cross.
Mm.
That's what Christ lived out.
Mm.
But if you can live out the vertical and focus on the vertical, which is the commandments, loving God,
right,
that the horizontal of loving your neighbor, like how Matthew puts it, you have heard, this is Matthew 5:43-45. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven, for he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust.
Mm.
So if you can live out the vertical, the horizontal comes.
The horizontal takes care of itself.
It comes. But yeah, man, the essence of love.
Yes.
I mean, when you can get to that level where it's like you're able to humble yourself, come from a place of love, and know like the essence of what that means. That, I mean, and that really gets back to the tail end of what Paul said in 1 Corinthians 13, where he says, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. We shall know God, not just in a sense of just like us being like him, because we will never amount to that status. But we understand the breadth and the depths of his love through knowing that stuff. Just personally getting involved and knowing what the essence of that is. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, the essence of love, man.
That's right, man.
You got anything on it, man?
The Lord takes pleasure in those who fear him and those who hope in his steadfast love. Psalm 146.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere, man.
You got to reflect on it.
Yeah, essence of love.
Gotta have it, man. Gotta have it. I feel great about it.
I love it. Till next time.
This is your co-host here, Braxton Matson, and Lee and I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We hope you've enjoyed it just as much as we did making it, but we couldn't do it without you. So please hit that like button, leave us a rating, leave us a review. Let us know what topic or subject that you would like us to talk about in your journey from mediocre to magnificent. But most of all, share it. Be the ripple effect of magnificence, and know that you are magnificent in everything you do. Till next time.